Hey, and welcome back to another episode of EMA's Artist Q&A. We're here with Fiachra, who you will recognise as a teacher from EMA. And he's also got an amazing story as a drummer, playing all around the world. And we're very lucky to have him here today. So thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Fantastic.
It's great to be here.
Fantastic. So we're going to do some questions.
First question, what is your first music memory?
That I can't really remember. My parents are both music teachers, so there was always music at home, which is a lot of what a lot of musicians say. But I don't know, probably Dad playing the violin at home. He taught violin, and then my sister and I took it up around age 6 and 4, something like that. So that's probably where it started. And then I got pretty bored playing the violin. My parents used to say that I would play the violin and play all the notes right, but I'd be humming something completely different. So they were like, okay, his brain is too active. We need to get him something else and keep him busy. So eventually I got onto the drums.
Fantastic. Nice segue into the next question, which you've obviously read in preparation. What inspired you to play the drums?
Mostly. My mum's dad, my granddad on that side was a almost professional drummer. And then my mum's brothers, so my uncles, pretty much all of them play some kind of instrument. 3 of them play the drums pretty proficiently.
Yeah.
And one of them there's like the Irish instrument, the bodhrán.
Yeah.
Do you know about that?
Course, yeah.
One of my uncles was 3-time All-Ireland bodhrán champ.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's hard to play.
It's hard to play and hard to be a champion at.
Yeah.
So that was always around. Like when I was a kid, there was a drum kit at Granny and Granddad's house, and I would just go mess around on it and stuff. And then at some point, one of my uncles had a nice kit, and he tried to show me the quarter note basic rock beat.
Right. Yeah.
Just quarter notes on the hi-hat, and he left me alone, and he came back 10 minutes later, and I was doing the 8th note.
Oh, fantastic.
Thing by myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this one's just a bit easier. It sounds better. And he was like, oh, okay, we need to get this guy.
Like you're a drummer.
Yeah. So that's how it started. Yeah. And Dad being a music teacher as well, so there's always lots of music.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah, it's cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You have had some amazing experiences and worked with many established artists in the industry in Ireland. What got you started in the music scene in Dublin, picking up gigs and recording work?
Well, because I had the drums, we started lots of bands. I was in lots of different bands throughout like my teenage life. There's one band with my next door neighbour, Tandem Felix, and I was in that band for about 8 years, and that was probably the first intro. That we went from being teenagers playing Battle of the Bands and talent shows and all that kind of thing, into gigging in venues, pubs and all of that kind of thing. So that was probably the start of it. That was my first experience recording anything that went to Spotify and officially did it. So yeah, credit to Dave and Tandem Felix.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic. Awesome. What do you enjoy most about being a session musician versus being in one band? Like I know you have a main project back home, but you also play with lots of other people. So like, what do you enjoy about that?
What I enjoy most about being a session musician is that it feels like it's like a trade almost. It's like I'm a plumber, or like, I'm a contractor.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you're being hired to. It's that term hired gun is there for a reason.
Yeah.
You're being hired to execute a specific thing.
Yep.
When you're getting called as a session musician, which means that you need to you need to learn your stuff, you need to know it, and that doesn't always happen. Like sometimes you get called last minute or whatever, but your job is to show up, play what's on the page, or play what's been recorded in the past, or if it's in the case of recording, play what they need, and then just go home and stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's it. You get paid for the job and you go home.
Yeah.
Being in a band is a totally different thing. It's like being in a family.
Yeah.
It's some of the projects I've been in are more democratic than others, or less democratic than others, and it's always just a juggling act, as you know, I'm sure.
Yeah.
With being in a band, it's kind of, sometimes it feels like you can't live with them, can't live without them.
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But it's a totally different thing. Like a band, the music aside, it could be like being on a board, you know, in a business.
Yeah.
It's totally different. You know,
Yeah.
you're dealing with people's personality types and other people's lives and this, that, and the other, which is great because you've got a lot of camaraderie and connection and you're all striving towards the same goal, which you are as a session musician as well. But the session musician thing, you can just switch off and you can just go home.
It's like you went and did your job that day.
You went and did your job that day and then you've gone home.
Yeah.
But the band is more of a collective thing.
Yeah.
And I think in the long run, the band is one I would prefer because it feels more like a family and it's more natural, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's more human.
And you're part of the whole process as well.
You're part of the whole process and you're heard.
Yeah.
I don't just mean on the drums. Yeah.
Do you set goals, and if so, how do you go about achieving them?
As my bosses, you guys would probably know that I could be pretty loose with certain things, like timing and punctuality. I save all the time for behind the kit, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's getting hot in here. No, do I set goals? Yes, I think so. I think I set very long-term overarching goals.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like very actively sitting down every day and, you know, like working through a prescribed curriculum or a prescribed kind of plan or that kind of thing. When it comes to practicing in particular, I don't really do that. I kind of find things that I want to know how to do, and then I'll kind of reverse engineer it as opposed to going forward. You know what I mean? And I'll think of a concept or something. I'll think of some kind of idea on the kit, and then I'll think, okay, well, how can I play that really, really comfortably? And then I'll try to kind of find building blocks to get myself to that point, as opposed to starting with building blocks and just hoping I get somewhere, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So some people might go about it in the building block kind of way, and they'll think, okay, from now until 4 weeks from now, I'm going to work on this for 8 hours a day, and it's going to be really, really strict. And then in 4 weeks, I will definitely be able to play this.
Yep.
But I've done that a few times, and it does work, but sometimes it doesn't. And you come out the other side incredibly frustrated because you haven't got it. And it's mostly because your body kind of hasn't settled into the new idea that you're trying to ask it to do.
Yeah.
This is very
going
pretty hard on this, but I feel like if there's certain things, it's all about kind of zooming out, you know. And it's like if there are certain things that you want to do and you can't do them yet, maybe it's got nothing to do with the drums. Maybe it's like you need to have more life experience.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe you just need to be a little bit older, or you need to, you know, time just needs to elapse a little bit longer, and it might be 6 months, it might not be 4 weeks, it might just be 6 months until you can get that, and then all of a sudden it'll just come out of you naturally.
Yeah.
As opposed to this thing that it has been very, very much
forced
into your system, and then you know, and then if it's forced in, it can get forced out just as quickly, you know. Whereas if it's
very rigid,
and this, here's this thing I learned. Listen to me.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just this kind of natural thing that just flows out of you, and if it flows out of you later down the line, you know, then it's much more expressive and it feels like it's yours, you know. And I feel the same way with larger form goal, you know, like goals, like with projects and that kind of thing. It's not so much an active everyday let's structure every little thing, you know, like some of the bands back in Dublin, we're trying to plan gigs now, and we're just taking it bit by bit, as opposed to, okay, you know, September 2024, we're going to be playing in this venue. Well, we might set that target, but we're just flowing through things, and if it's right, it's right, you know. Yeah. Kind of see how you go. But that doesn't mean that the goal doesn't exist. No. The goal is always there. Yeah. And it's the same with playing. It's the same with recording. It's I kind of like taking a relaxed approach through the journey, as opposed to just a really deliberate one. But I guess that answers that question.
Fantastic. What advice and tips would you give to musicians looking to make a career in the music industry?
Practice.
Fantastic.
Really practice. Yeah. I can't stress it enough. It's something I didn't do enough of. Yeah. And I was always kind of like in bands or around people, you know, around musicians. So I was able to kind of just be a drummer in lots of different settings. but I wasn't doing the right amount of practice. That's the first thing I would say, is just be really good.
Yeah.
You know, it's a silly thing to say, because some people just don't feel like they can. But if you just have the patience to sit there and just do it over and over again in a room by yourself, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, you will, and you'll get better. And practice self-criticism, not negative criticism, kind of like self-constructive criticism. Practice that, because that's a skill in itself.
Yeah.
You know, because there are certain things that you need to fix, and there are certain things that you actually don't need to fix. You're fine.
Yeah.
You know, you could be really good already, and learning to spot the stuff that you're already really good at, and accept it and be okay with that, that's a skill.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then just fine tuning the little things. You know, you could look at yourself on film and just be like, God, I'm sitting weird, or that kind of stuff doesn't matter. It's like, do you sound good? And it's like, yeah, except for this one little bit, and just work on the little bit.
Yeah.
And then that's fine. And then there'll be another little bit and another little bit. So that question, what advice and tips do you give to musicians to make a career in the music industry? Get good first. Get good at doing that. And then my little sister's studying ballet, and before she went into studying, I gave her four little tips to being to help her get through it. Just stuff that I've learned mostly by mistake, or by making mistakes throughout the years. And it was PPSN. So it was punctual, polite. What was it? No, punctual, prepared, sound, and neat. So it's show up on time, know your stuff, be nice to everybody, and have a shower before you get there. You know? and just be clean. And if you cover those four things, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be absolutely, like, if that's advice I'd give to everybody. Show up on time. Be prepared.
Yeah.
Be nice to everybody, and have a shower before you get there. You know,
That's great.
it's good advice.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm joking because I was a little bit late today.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean that in terms of like gigs and you know where it matters, and you know and not really where it matters, because you can start to think, well, this gig doesn't matter or that gig doesn't matter. Every gig matters.
Yeah.
And if you're like that on every gig, if you're like that on a shitty pub gig and you're getting $80 to do it, people trust that you'll be like that in the stadium.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll be 3 hours early to the stadium.
And a lot of the times, especially in New Zealand, you might do a 100 capacity show, and then the next day you could do an arena show, but it might be the same sound person and the same crew, and you bump into the same people all the time. So you kind of always just need to be on your game, you know.
On your game, and it's but the thing is, thinking like you need to be on your game is a funny one, because it means that I think that those things should just be natural.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
Like
as early as possible.
Yeah.
Just genuine, and
Yeah.
like if it's the kind of thing that that you feel like you don't want to be those four things for it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's not for you. You know what I mean? And like if I don't know. I've gone through this a lot. You know, because as a session musician, or as a gigging drummer especially, you have to take work that's going.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to take everything that's going, good and bad and up and down, and that there's something great about that.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really cool. And a lot of people, I was having a conversation on Monday with somebody about this, about how much they hate doing pub gigs and they hate doing this, that, and the other, and it's like, I don't know, if I'm free that night, I'd rather be playing than not playing.
Yeah.
I'd rather play to anybody than sit at home practicing. Do you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for treating every gig, like, this sounds so cliched, but like, really get the most out of every gig. There's always something to be learned on it. There's some kind of camaraderie to be had, unless it's a really, really awful space, and it's awful people, and it's awful money. There's a rule of three. It's good people, good money, good music.
Yeah.
And if it's 2 out of 3, great. If it's 1, don't bother doing it. If it's 3, never ever leave that band. Stay in that band forever. Those bands are hard to come by.
Yeah.
They almost never exist.
Yeah.
You know, good money, good people, good music. You'd be very lucky.
Yeah.
You know, but 2 out of 3, do the gig. 1 out of 3 or 0 out of 3. Think about it and maybe pull yourself away.
Maybe stay home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why you're showing up unprepared, because you kind of don't care about it.
Yeah.
You know, or you don't want to do a good job on it.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get called again. It can be a subconscious thing like that, where that kind of happens. You know. But I think on the gigs you really want and you want to do it, those 4 PPSN: punctual, prepared, be nice to everyone, and neat and tidy.
How do you prepare for live performances, in particular when you're asked to perform last minute?
Oh.
Does it depend on the show, or do you have like something you follow no matter what it is?
I have a little kind of cheat sheet thing that I've developed over time. It's actually typing into a Google Doc.
Yeah.
And I just have a little shorthand thing. Sometimes if I need the beat to songs and stuff. See, with drums, it's different. We don't have to worry about key signatures and stuff. So as long as you've got the main skeleton of a tune, you're fine.
Yeah.
You know, and if there are little beats or there's stuff that you need to catch, little hits and stuff, I just scribble those in. But like, how do you prepare for live performances, particularly when you're asked to perform last minute? Just listen to all the songs, listen to them all once, jot down a skeleton, and if you've got time, play through each song once.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't even have time.
No.
And you just hope that the skeleton was
Close
right
Mm-hmm.
when you jotted it down.
Well, we did a last minute jump on stage at a show last night, and you had your phone up to your ear so you could get the tempo.
I did.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Great.
Yeah. I needed the tempo, and I needed the main structure of the beat.
Yeah.
Just the actual beat. It was a song I'd never heard before, but just that main kick pattern.
Yeah.
Just it like dum ka dum.
Yeah.
Ka dum dum ka dum. Cool. I can play that.
Yeah.
That's something that we teach 6-year-olds here.
Yeah.
You know, it's like grand. If I can play that and keep it in time,
We should be right.
we should be right. And playing for years and years and years, you kind of get a feel for, you know, you listen out for, have they just changed chord? Does it sound like does it sound like they're going into a chorus?
Mm-hmm.
Is the bassist giving you a nod
Yeah.
or not?
Yeah.
You know, as the case may be.
Communication.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes open on stage and keep your ears open. That sounds silly, but you know, really do listen to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But also don't be a passenger either. You know, don't be waiting for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there is something, I remember seeing an interview with Dave Elitch. He was talking about Steve Jordan playing with John Mayer.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Jordan's this amazing drummer.
Yeah.
And he was just like, that guy's time isn't absolutely rock solid, but it's strong and wrong. And it doesn't matter, you know? And sometimes that can go a long way.
Yeah.
Do you know? You just go for it. You just go for the thing. And that's probably bad advice really, but like, you know, because you want it to be musical and you don't want to step on anybody's toes on stage. But if you're doing a last minute gig, I don't think anybody expects you to know absolutely everything.
No.
You know, so if there's a case where you can just make a snap decision, you know, if you're gonna end the song, end it.
Yeah.
You know, don't kind of half. You know, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna, you know, or not, if you're gonna keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of limpy. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. You don't want to do that.
No.
You know, like so that goes a long way, and that just comes with practice.
Yeah.
That's for like the last minute gigs. But preparing for live performances in general, it's just drilling it. It's just doing stuff. It's the same as practicing a concept. It's the same as anything else. If you're working on a song, or you're working on a set for somebody, you want to be arriving at that first rehearsal feeling like you've been playing it in a band.
Yeah.
You know,
Your rehearsals isn't practice.
Your rehearsals isn't practice. Yeah. So you want to be ready enough in rehearsals that you're not learning the song or hearing it for the first time. If you've been given a bit of time.
Yeah.
So you want to be that's that whole thing. The difference between being a session musician, going back to that other question, session musician and being in a band. Ideally, being a session musician, you should be able to arrive in playing the music as if it's your band,
Yeah.
and you've been playing in that band for a long time. So getting that, achieving that, can be really satisfying. That's really cool because that's a real struggle.
Yeah.
You know, that especially if you're filling in for somebody who's got really particular style
Yeah.
or anything like that, that can be really tricky. But you know, if you're preparing for live performances in general, I mean, there are a few tricks you can do. You can turn the band around to all face the same way. You know, even if you're in a small room and it's quite cozy, turn around, you know, get the singer to turn around and actually face the wall, because they're not going to be looking at you across the room while you're on stage. They're going to be looking at the audience and you're going to be looking at the back of their head. So you need to get used to communicating with one another like that.
Yeah.
Another thing that you can do is do it in the dark. Turn off all the lights, put the blinds down, and try practice in the dark. It's amazing. It's amazing what it will do for your ears.
Yeah.
Because you don't have any cues with anybody. And if you can do that, and like, you know, you got to remember exactly where the kit is. You'll be used, you know, anyone will be used to that. But just that whole thing of like your position on stage, what you're actually hearing, versus what you were kind of relying on for eye contact. Ditch the lights, and then all of a sudden, I've done that with some of the bands here actually. They loved it.
Yeah,
they kept asking, "Can we do it with the lights off again?" I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah,
it was great. It wasn't pitch black, you know, like there was still light from the hallway and stuff, but they just thought it was like, okay, cool. We actually really have to listen to each other.
What are the 3 highlights of your career so far?
Working at EMA.
Yay!
Yes.
Was that all
Bonus
3?
point.
Yeah.
That's all 3.
Yeah.
Working at EMA, working with Elliot, working with Nick.
Thank you.
Next question. No, in all seriousness, getting to play on David Letterman was amazing. That was really, really cool. Because we got the full tour when we arrived in, and they showed us, you know, like the big sound room and the tech room and stuff down in the basement, and then, you know, that show is going out to literally millions of people, and we only got one take. Yeah, that was kind of cool. You know, I think we could have done another take if we wanted. I think other bands probably would, but we just one and done, and yeah, it's like that's the stage in the Ed Sullivan Theatre where Ringo first played, and you know, there's so much history of music on that stage, so that's probably number 1.
And you probably grew up watching that show like every night.
I'd watch loads and loads and loads of that show. Yeah. So that was pretty special. Yeah. And just I don't know, Letterman's so cool as well. Like just his history with stand-up comedians as well. He's such a dude. So and he's really into drums. Yeah. He didn't ask if they were rentals. That's his thing. He always asks that at the end.
They're your drums. They're beautiful.
They're your drums.
They're yours are rentals.
And if they're not rentals, he asks, can he buy the kit? That's his thing. Or used to ask. Yeah. His show's gone. That was really cool. That whole experience, because that whole day we were in New York. We did VH1 in the morning, and then we got driven around the corner to the Ed Sullivan, did David Letterman, and then got driven around the corner to soundcheck at the Bowery Ballroom. And it was like three things. Like 3 iconic places. 3 iconic places right in Times Square, or, you know, right downtown New York, and we had like 4 hours sleep or something. It was, and you know, I could have not slept at all, and it still would have been amazing. Just the adrenaline of doing that. That's one. I don't know. Like I did this cool gig on St. Patrick's Day last week. That was really cool. I don't know. Like it just felt really good. Felt really comfortable. And that might be a bit of a cop-out answer, but that was one of those things where I had to kind of prepare in advance. I didn't really know many of the musicians. I'd never played with any of them really before. Yeah. And just prepared well enough, and just kept it fun and just enjoyed it. You know, it was
that in Dublin?
It was in Dublin. Yeah. It was a big like 4-hour show, kind of thing, with 2 hours and then a break and then 2 hours, playing loads of funk tunes and stuff. But that was a real highlight. I really enjoyed doing that. And it might be recency bias, but it feels like sometimes the most recent thing I've done is the best. The best thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then there's lots of cool different things. Building my studio, let's say that. Yeah. Having a space in town, in the center of a city, that's soundproofed, that's 24/7 access, that I don't have to worry about, you know, I don't have to worry about anything really. I leave the mic set up on the drums, and I can just walk in, turn the computer on, and I can start recording whenever I want. Yeah. So that let's round that out, because there are lots of different things that has facilitated. Yeah. working with different artists and recording and being able to record. But let's say,
Those are the three.
highlights of the three. Most of that came from recording on Take Me to Church, Hosier's big song, and the royalties that came from that. I built the studio and opened a little business and stuff. So
That's amazing. So drums built your studio.
Drums built the studio. Playing music built my studio. Yeah,
That's
and playing more music is continuing to fund my life, which is kind of cool.
Amazing, man. All right.
If you could play drums for one artist, who would it be?
At the moment, probably Jordan Rakai. He's a Kiwi guy. He's moved over to London. I just love his music. Just his whole vibe. He's really, really cool.
That's great.
Jordan,
that's
Jordan
the
Rakai.
one artist.
No, I just think his vibe is cool. I like this the drums he asks for in his music, like that sound and the vibe and stuff. That's just really what I'm into. I really like that. Or Bill Withers, James Gadsden. If I could play that gig, that would be I know, 40 years ago. That would be the gig. I'd like if I could pick somebody that I'd probably try to model a little bit of playing off, it would be James Gadsden.
I don't feel this, but I saw a interview with Tom from Fontaines DC.
Oh yeah.
And he said the same thing
About
Bill Withers drummer. He was
Gadsden?
like, that's my guy.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not
he had
surprised.
a record. It was in that amoeba what's in my bag. There you go.
I'm not surprised, Tom. If Tom ever sees this,
there you go.
good shout. Yeah, good taste.
Yeah. I like your band, Tom.
Very
Your band's cool. Sweet.
Cool.
Thanks for chatting to us today, mate.
Yeah.
welcome.
Thanks
Thanks for
for
having
coming.
me.
That's
Cheers.
okay. Cheers.
Yay.
Bye now.
Cheers.